and welcome back to Resident Evil Revisited. I am one of your hosts, MC Fixer, joined by the lovely Hayley. How are you?
Hey, I'm good, thank you.
The one and only Shotgun McPain. How are you, Nick?
What's up, Boulder
And
Punching?
the other host of this show, Paul Despawn.
What up,
How are
people?
you?
How many boulders have we punched?
A few.
Not enough. Not enough is the answer.
Be honest with me, Paul Despawn. Was your tweet at me specifically?
No. Are you not, like, for anyone who doesn't know, in the UK we have a thing called Ed Balls Day. Are you aware of Ed Balls Day at all?
No.
It's basically a day that a politician Googled himself by typing it into Twitter. And he just typed his own name. So every year someone celebrates that.
I was wondering what that was about.
Yeah.
So I'll be honest with you. I thought you were sending for me. I thought. So
Wait. What was
Oh,
the
you
tweet?
know if I come for you because I don't miss.
It's literally just Paul Despawn.
it just said
Like,
says
tweet.
Paul Despawn.
Right.
So I was
Oh,
under.
so you thought it was like check yourself before you wreck yourself. You've not been saying my name right.
That's
Like,
exactly what I thought it was. I thought this was a MC Mook situation.
This was like a Corey with 2 R's and an E
Yeah,
type situation.
Exactly. Exactly. I was just like,
No.
is he coming for me? Like, what the heck? Like,
I don't do subtle. I
Yeah.
don't do subtlety. If I'm coming for you, you know.
Okay.
I'll
adding
miss,
you.
but I'll still come for you. Yeah.
I'm adding all your accounts. I'm adding MC Fixer. I'm adding my Xbox and me. It's coming.
My
It's
PlayStation
coming.
and me's Twitter comes out of nowhere and it's like, yo,
Yeah,
come on.
I'll set it
Come
up.
Yeah, all the promo
Tweet
while
at
you're
Well, if you don't know what Resident Evil Revisited is our daily, weekly, monthly podcast. It's kind of just been all shoved into one thing at this point, where we come together and we rank and review every single Resident Evil numbered game. Obviously, Code Runner Crew is included in that as well.
As it should be.
As it should be, of course. And as I'm sure most of you are seeing right now, we are going to be talking about Resident Evil 5. I'll tell you what, I'll kick it off with initial thoughts because I'm the hardcore Resident Evil fan of the group. And I'll be honest, a lot of people have said to me I give this game a hard time. A lot. Like, I am very harsh on this game, and I've probably beat Resident Evil 5 a lot of times, but mainly because of for achievement running and getting all the treasures. So that wouldn't really include running the story multiple times, skipping the story and just sort of running its gameplay. Now, we spoke about Resident Evil 4 last week, right? It was last week. No, it would, well, technically it come out today, which was last week for us, but it doesn't matter, you've got it. Which I said that I think it had one of the weakest stories ever in a Resident Evil game, but the gameplay was really good. Especially for its time as well, which I think we do take that into account. Resident Evil 5, for me, its gameplay is okay, and its story is okay. That's kind of where I sit with it, honestly. I do think playing it through this time round in the back to back of Resident Evils definitely gave it more points. It definitely, especially after playing 4 and having such a bad time with it, playing 5, I'm going, oh, well, okay, there's characters here that I enjoy. There isn't enough character development that I would want from the entire game, but there is stuff to like in Resident Evil 5 that if you would have said to me a week ago, I wouldn't have mentioned any of this stuff that I'm about to talk about liking. Hayley, again, you don't play the games, but this is one you've actually played
I have
before.
actually played this game before.
You didn't play it through this time for this show, but what did you think of the game from a surface level?
I pretty much agree with you, to be honest. I think it's very okay. I think something that the game did make us both do was reconsider our rankings that we've currently done of the Resident Evil games.
Yes.
Which we will get to when we get to the end of the podcast anyway. But I think the more of the games you play, I think the more you realise that you may have been a little bit too harsh on some games and maybe a little bit too nice to others.
I
you
think
compare them
we've
between
been
them.
mean to Resident Evil 3. I'm just putting it out there, and we won't get to re-rank it until the very end. I think we've been mean to Resident Evil 3, but carry on with your thoughts.
But yeah, no, the game was okay. As you said, I think there are definitely things to enjoy. Notes not being one of them.
No. Then
What notes?
If you're not someone if you're one of these people that never reads the instructions, never picks up a player's manual, don't bother reading these notes, because these notes are like blimmin' dictionaries. They're just, they're not fun at all. There is no personality in them.
Despawn, where did you come down on this one with your initial thoughts?
I probably came down a little bit more negative than you guys. Not by much. I still think, gameplay-wise, it's okay. Story-wise, I think, and I think we'll probably talk about it when we get into it further, there are some really problematic things in this game that I think we should touch on. But all in all, I think like gameplay, story, character-wise, it's very middle of the ground. It completely gives up on being a survival horror. Like, I know we said previously Resident Evil 4 was like the turning point where it was more of an action game.
Yeah.
This one just screwed the pooch and went, this is it. We're full on. It felt like a Michael Bay game. That is just nothing but explosions and just exciting points. And then nonsensical plot points and enemies and things like that. That it was more based around the action than anything else. Rather than it being like a Resident Evil plot, which is a shame because when it's good, I thought it was really good. I thought there were some points that it explained, like it progressed the story of Resident Evil itself really well. It filled in some of the back points that were there, but yeah, coming out of it, I was happy to say that I'm probably not going to go back.
Shotgun?
All right. So obviously,
Here we go.
Obviously, I have such a fondness for this game, just in terms of like it being the first. Like, this is the first Resident Evil game I ever beat, and I have footage. At some point, I'm sure I'll post it on Twitter when this episode comes out, of me playing Resident Evil 5 on my futon, like just like when I was a teenager. Like, I was all about it. And let me tell you, like, going back to it, I'm like, I was scared because I'm like, all right, well, you know, playing through Resident Evil 4, I'm like, the gameplay doesn't really hold up, and I did kind of like the gameplay back in the day, so I'm like worried about, you know, Resident Evil 5. And for the most part, Resident Evil 5 did disappoint in terms of gameplay, because it's just like the co-op stuff just doesn't really work if you're single player.
Yes.
And like, even I've played co-op before, and even like with the co-op, it's like it's kind of clunky. I think it kind of is a step down in some ways of Resident Evil 4, even though it's largely the same.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
However, I think the story rocks. Like, especially when it comes to the Umbrella stuff, and when it comes to like actually getting into the origins and getting into what happens to Wesker and all that. Like, I think that it does such a great job at that. When it gets going, it goes. And I think that was our biggest complaint with Resident Evil 4, where Resident Evil 4 like has almost no ties to Resident Evil at all. Whereas like there are times where I'm like, oh shit, like this is like actually benefiting other Resident Evil games in my mind. Like, I'm actually like, it kind of like goes like where they talk about the Africa base, where it's kind of like goes to, in my mind, like a Code Veronica type thing, where it's just like, okay, they're all around the world. Like, it kind of it less builds the characters and more builds the world, and that's what I really love about it.
I think this one will hit the nail on the head there, where I think when it is playing to the Resident Evil-ness of the game, I think it's when it's at its strongest. When it tries to be this action B-movie, not so much with quips, but just the pure action focused of this game is where, for me, it is just sort of bastardized in a way of like, they just tore away kind of everything that I love about the series, and they just sort of put it in. I think I agree with you. I think there's a few things that I dislike, and I suppose we can get into the plot and break it down. And yeah, we'll do that just because it's easier to do that way. If you've got something to add,
before we go into the plot, talking about the whole trying to be playing the two-player role but as one person, Sheva literally believes she's a human shield.
Yep.
It's actually harder for you to miss her than it is for you to hit her. A lot of the times, like, why is she always in front of the gun? I don't get it. And why is she always shooting you if you're not, like, if it's not the other way around? It's crazy.
Okay,
atrocious.
Before we jump in, I think we suppose it's best to start with the first opening cutscene. It's something that we've kind of spoken about throughout every single Resident Evil game. I would put this more in the camp of Resident Evil 4-ish, where I don't think it's terrible because you do see spoilers. You do see like, oh, this mysterious character, which happens to be Jill, putting in the Las Plagas 2 into these people and stuff like that. I don't think it's terrible. I just don't think it's hype enough.
No.
Like I don't. Maybe I'm looking back at it in a little bit of a disservice way, because I do remember the Jill reveal. The first time of seeing it, I thought that was actually a huge deal. I remember being very young, not very young, but like being a mid-teenager and being like, oh my god, it's Jill and she's got blonde hair, which we'll get to that moment. But I don't think they really build that up enough in this opening cutscene. They could have built it a lot stronger. And I think the BSAA as a whole could have been built up a lot stronger in the opening. Something that Haley very much noticed, and I noticed as well with also Sheva, in the opening cutscene, in that opening period as you're walking through the village, right? I suppose it's a village. Is it a village? Yeah, is that fair to say a village? Yeah. Is Sheva's American, but she's not American, she's African. But she's not African, she's American. Like,
she has no accent at all to where she where she originates from.
And I think that's one of the biggest problems of this game, which was, all right, we're gonna set this game in Africa. Cool, no problem. I understand there was I remember when it first got announced, there was a huge uproar about it being set there. And I was like, okay, I don't have a problem with it being set in Africa. I think the story. I think from a bioterrorism point of view, it's like, well, yeah, why not? Somewhere that is so out of the way from America that you can hide something. It's a big enough country, and the way I look at it is, and maybe I'm wrong, you guys can correct me, and I'm not very worldly in those ways, but like, to me, Africa is the rich are rich and the poor are extremely poor, right? Yeah, so that's kind of one of the perfect places to stick this facility, and it's the perfect world to sort of, unfortunately, in bad ways, I don't mean it's in like a positive, but it's like, it's kind of realistic where it's like, oh, we're going to test on these people that have nothing. And and
no one's going to know.
And no one's really going to pay attention enough. Exactly.
I don't mean it like that,
no,
but you know what I mean.
100%. 100%.
It's not going to make news.
But yeah, Sheva for me, from the offset of this game, of thinking about it properly, it just really jarred me, her not having an accent of any sort.
Especially when she speaks to Josh and he has an accent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know if any of that annoyed you guys, or what did you think of the opening scene?
No, 100%. I think the whole Sheva character, like you say, with the AI to it all, is bad. But as a character as well, I think she came across as very like thin as a character. Like there was no real backstory to her. It was just like she was there to be a side character or a second player. Yeah, that someone could take control of. And yeah, with the accent, it just felt like, again, that I personally, like, just playing through the game, I found there was a lot of problematic parts, and I think she was one of those, and like, not so much whitewashing it, but it's like, we'll give we'll give the token black character a white person's voice. Yeah. And it came across like that to me, and it's just like,
I don't think it's so much...
It made me uncomfortable a little bit.
Yeah, I don't think it's so much a white person's voice. For me, I think it's an American voice. Is what the problem is.
Standard,
very
easy to listen to voice.
Yes.
But also, I'm pretty sure in the beginning sequence, I can't remember if it's a cutscene or not, but someone speaks to her in African, and she responds in American. Now, why would she do that? Do you know what I mean? If she's from there...
She shows her papers of, like, I can pass through.
In her language, and we should see it as subtitles or whatever else, you know? Or she then looks at Chris and goes, oh, he said this. Yeah, do you know what I mean? I don't know, it just felt a bit...
Yeah, I agree. I do agree. That was a moment... It's a moment that now being older, understanding video games, the landscape of video games, understanding culture way more than I ever have, of like, oh... Yeah, you just did that because that would please everybody else. It doesn't lend itself well to the game at all, in my opinion. But go on, Nick, please.
I just want to touch on, I think that the other thing, like, I'm kind of adding on to what Despawn said. I think the other thing is she's there to be a female partner. Like, she's there as Jill, like the Jill stand-in. Like, they very much, especially when it comes to the scene where they interact, it's very much like, oh yeah, you're
Don't
his
you
partner
trust
now.
your partner?
Yeah, like it does, and it doesn't work. It just doesn't work.
All right, let's get into the plot. In 2009, 5 years after the after the events of Resident Evil 4, Chris Redfield, now an agent of the BSAA, the Bioterrorism Security Assessment Alliance, is dispatched to Kujuju in Africa.
Yeah.
He and his new partner, Sheva Olamo. I got the name. It's frustrating me even more the fact without her last name like that, and you just totally didn't. Yeah, very annoying. Are tasked with apprehending Ricardo Irvin before he can sell a bioorganic weapon (BOW) on the black market. When they arrive, they discover that the locals have been infected by parasites, Las Plagas. Those infected are called Mangini. Yeah,
Magini,
and the BSAA Alpha team have been killed. So that whole opening thing kind of skips a lot of stuff. So let's break that down from a gameplay point of view and think about what we like here. Obviously, we have the opening as you're going through the village. You speak to the American dude who is very much there just to move you along the story kind of thing. Beyond that part of picking up your weapons, which this American dude has smuggled in for you, you then come across this woman who has been infected with Las Plagas, which this isn't the normal Las Plagas, which we learn later on. It is Las Plagas 2, which we'll get into more details later, I'm sure. I don't mind this opening level. I think it does a great job of like setting the tone of like, we're in a village. People live here. This isn't... I think it does a good job of like, this isn't America. You see the body bag with someone in a body bag just getting kicked the shit out of, right? And like, you sort of look over and it's like, what are you looking at? Get on with your business. Like, you're an outsider. You're not from here. Don't worry about what we're doing. We're doing us. You're here as a guest. Shut your mouth and keep moving, sort of thing. So I do think it sets the tone of that pretty well. Unfortunately, that tone doesn't carry on throughout the rest of the game. But I do think that the start of it does a decent enough job of showing Chris as a hero, wanting to help, Sheva being there. And then obviously we get to the moment of like the big villagers moment where the American dude has then been beheaded. We have our first opening of gameplay against a load of different enemy types. We have the big axe dude and stuff like that. What do you think of this section as a whole? Nick, we'll start with you.
I don't really like it.
Interesting.
I didn't like it when I was a kid, and I do not like it now. Where it's just like, just feels like, all right, well, this is introducing you into the world, and it just like, it's there to literally say that rather than actually introducing you like, okay, this is the world, like really building it up. Like I feel like it's like, yo, we're gonna have this enemy there, and this is the new exterminator, and this is the new, like, this is what we're doing with this, and like, can you believe we did this? Like, yeah. And I think some of the design, like I think the executioner, the design is like okay at best.
Yeah.
Like I never really liked that.
It's not very in a world where Las Plagas is just a parasite, so it is just taking over humans. Why is he dressed in all black with this giant hood over himself and a bunch of blood?
Yeah,
it's
definitely to try to place it in like Resident Evil proper. Like,
yeah, but it doesn't work because you can't have both. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah. There's no like connection to the world that it's trying to build. It's just like you say, it's a video game character to be a video game character rather than be a part of that world that they're trying to build. And I'm kind of with Shotgun on the whole, like, that section. It feels like they're trying to continue what they did in Resident Evil 4 with like the village and the denizens of that village are basically, these are what you're going to go up against. And I think to build the basic characters, it's fine, but then you add that in on top of it, it makes it a bit too unrealistic, which is a weird thing to say when you're talking about a Resident Evil game. But I think, it didn't fit in the world, and it kind of takes you out a little bit. And again, chucking you straight into what is, for all intents and purposes, a horde mode right at the beginning of the game.
100%.
It's just like, yeah, we've seen this before. It's not a good introduction into the world. It's not a good introduction to the combat. And it's kind of, especially because it's one of those things where you're kind of just waiting for the clock to tick down until the next bit kicks in. And it's just like, yeah, it's fine for what it is, but I don't think it really fits. And it doesn't have the effect of putting you on edge or making you tense. It's just like, you just kind of stand in a corner and just shoot what comes close to you and wait.
I do kind of feel like that's pretty much the whole game, to be honest. I never found this game scary or
I don't think it's meant to be scary, though.
No, but it's not even intense, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
No, I
It
get you.
just doesn't have that
intense.
vibe that the other games have. But yeah, definitely. I feel like it's just kind of chucked in there for the sake of being chucked in there, isn't it? Really, that horde mode area.
I think it's like you both
It's
have
like this
said.
worked out well in Resident Evil 4. Let's put this here.
I think that's a lot of
the
the
entire
game.
game.
This worked
Yeah.
out in Resident Evil 4, so let's do that. But yeah, I think you're right. It's like, oh, here's your new weapon. This is what a weapon box is going to look like. Let's kill these enemies. Oh, look, this is our treasures of the world, which is like, okay, I'm fine with there being treasures, but just make a little bit more sense in the context of the entire world. Like, I've got no problem with knowing I'm playing a video game, but what you're trying to sell me here isn't that I'm playing a video game. It's like, it is this world. So yeah, it's a shame, but I get it.
And the thing is, like, it feels like after, like, post this game, they very much felt like the section, oh yeah, this is just a video game. Like, I remember playing, this is a deep cut, the Mercenaries 3DS game.
Oh yeah.
And that is a section in the Mercenaries 3DS game, and it's the exact same thing. Like, it is very much a video game segment to be a video game segment.
Chris and Sheva are rescued by the BSAA Delta team, which includes Sheva's mentor. This jumps. Sometimes you get a good Wikipedia plot, and sometimes you get a bad Wikipedia plot. I don't write the plots. I've said this before, so I'm sorry.
This Wikipedia jumps further than Chris does at some points in these games.
Chris and Sheva are rescued by a BSAA Delta team, which includes Sheva's mentor, Captain Josh Stone. Let's sort of touch on Josh for real quickly. Josh is there. Once again, it's a character from the native world, which at least he has an accent, but there is nothing built. It's oh, Josh was my mentor, and I look up to Josh. And it's like, but why? What does he do?
Yeah.
He helped her get rid of her accent, apparently.
Yeah. But they also don't really have any relationship with each other, do you? It's not like they have like this banter or like friendship or whatever. Like, and again, that could so easily be played in if she just spoke to him in their native language, just for like a little, I don't know, interaction or something. But yeah, there's just nothing really there, is it? It's just a case of here is someone who does have an accent who comes from this area. That's what it is. We're not completely, whitewashing it as such.
Yeah.
It's there for,
I would say that weirdly, one of the DLCs kind of gives him a bit more motivation.
It does, but the DLC sucks.
It's not good. Yeah, it's not good DLC. It's just there are lines in there is like, I need to go save her and all this kind of stuff, and you kind of feel like he cares in that DLC, but the gameplay that comes with it is just like, yeah, it's just survive this area and move on.
It's crazy because I only played the what's it called? The Desperate Nightmares? Last Nightmares, thank you. That's the only one I played. I didn't even bother playing the other one just because I don't like it. But I do think both of those DLCs, and I understand DLC is a DLC for a reason, but if you would have put them both in the main game, it would have helped the main game a hell of a lot, especially the Lost in Nightmares one. Because imagine that was the opening of the game, which we'll get to at the end of the plot, because that's not going to be in the plot. But imagine that was the opening, and then you go through this entire story. You'd be like, oh, this is different. This is different.
And not to get into it too much, but I think that also, like, there's a good chunk of the cutscenes in the DLC that are just in the game.
Yes.
Like, in the main game, is like, give it more context. And, like, even just to have it sprinkled throughout and be like, all right, the mystery of what happened at, the Spencer... the new Spencer estate.
Yeah.
That's exactly what happened in 4, though, wasn't it, really? In terms of the Ada DLC had the...
Well, that one was... Oh,
it did. Well, it's
Technically,
not DLC, but it was
added
for the time,
It was
right?
added,
Like,
yeah.
It's DLC for the time.
Yeah, sure.
If you're, like... That was kind of the same, where they used a lot of the original cutscenes and actually, kind of told a bit more of an interesting story than the actual... main game. I feel like that's pretty much the same with this and the DLC with Jill and all that, but yeah.
In Stones' data, Chris sees a photo of Jill Valentine, his old partner, who has been presumably dead after a confrontation with Albert Wesker. This is where we cue the scene of what actually happens between Wesker, Chris, and Jill. They're all fighting each other, and Jill Wesker is about to kill Chris pretty much, and Jill tackles him out of a window and is presumably dead. What I will say is I enjoy that cutscene. All of the fighting choreography actually throughout the entire game, I actually enjoy. I don't think it always makes sense because we don't know. There's not enough backstory of like, how does Jill know how to do some of this stuff, or Chris know how to do this stuff, or even Chev or whoever. Like, Wesker, I understand he's Wesker, so he's going to be able to do that. But the rest of the characters, we never really understand. Chris, for all intents and purposes, is just a special army man. That's pretty much all he is. He's very good at being an army man, but he knows how to punch boulders somehow. But yeah, so what I will say is I do enjoy that cutscene. That's when it's being Resident Evil, like I said before, I think it is at its best. So the Wesker, Jill, and Chris cutscene, I think, is very good in the context of all of that. I do think. I don't know about you guys, but
no, I'd agree. I think whenever it harkens back to like the main overarching story of Resident Evil, I think it really does a good job of kind of like bringing it all together. It's just everything beyond that seems a bit superfluous.
Yeah. Okay.
I tend to agree with Despawn, where I think like when this hits upon like Resident Evil, post Resident Evil 4, like in terms of like Umbrella is gone, Spencer is trying to figure out stuff, you know, like trying to get everything in line still and rebuild, and Wesker's trying to do what Wesker does best. You know, and I think like that plot is so I love it because it takes something where it's just like, okay, well, it kind of comparably, of course, one of my favorite franchises of all time, Star Wars, it kind of does something that the sequel trilogy does, where it's like, all right, well, here's what's built up here, and we actually take this away, and then it tries to build it back up. Yeah. Whereas this game, it's like, it does that perfectly. It does it perfectly to where it's like, okay, in the last game we destroyed Umbrella, like we made it so like you just have this new story. Whereas like this story is like, all right, well, we kind of want to touch on Umbrella still, so we'll add that more into it, and I think it's beneficial for it, and they do it really well.
Yeah, I agreed.
Before you move on, you mentioned about Chris just being a glorified army man and punching boulders and stuff. What is with the fact that Chris can punch boulders but can't kick down a door on his own?
Yeah.
Like, what's with that? Like,
well, fists stronger than
he
legs.
skips leg day. Skips leg day.
To give a little bit of fairness, it is a video game, and they can't have a character just running through all of the doors. It just doesn't work like that mechanically.
You can punch the door.
No, but mechanically, you can't have the two characters be that separate. This was a 360 game.
I know.
Like, you can't.
But, you know, you're just like, okay.
I get what you're saying, but come on, we've got to think about it more from a video game point of view there.
No, I don't wanna.
Chris, Sheva, and Delta Team close in on Irvin, but he escapes with the aid of a hooded figure. Irvin leaves documents that lead Chris and Sheva to the marsh oil fields. This is where Irvin's deal is to occur, but they discover that the documents are a diversion. So, okay, this is, I think, at this point we've already had. So if this is our first boss fight, if I'm not mistaken, which is the giant worm. Yes? No? Maybe?
I think.
Is there one before this?
We have skipped over one point in this game, like
Please.
when they meet up with Delta Team, when they meet up with Josh. Why can zombies ride motorbikes?
Well, they're not zombies.
What? Yeah.
That's why they're not zombies. They're Los Plagas,
like
so they're just being controlled to do whatever they want them to do. They're, for all intents and purposes, from the way I understand Los Plagas, is
it's almost like
they are. Right? Pardon?
It's almost like they've got mind controlled.
Yeah, they're mind controlled, but so they could. Why couldn't they ride a motorbike?
It's in the context of what had come before, because it was very much like slow moving zombies, as it were, in the opening scenes and the fight scenes, where they're using machetes at best.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden they're doing tricks on motorbikes, doing jumps off of things. And
I know what cutscene you're on about now. The cutscene where Josh actually turns up, where it's all quick time events, which I hate, by the way, in this entire game. Do not put cutscenes and quick time events together. I don't like it.
You let go of the controller, that's why.
Well, it's just stupid.
I'm going to sit back and relax. Oh, wait, I'm dead.
While I agree with you, to play devil's advocate, I will say, this was the time and place. Very much, we're getting God of War 3 at this point, where it's like, okay, everything's a quick time event. We got Zora's Wrath down the road, where like literally everything is a quick time event.
Yeah, I just, even with the context of that, it's like, you should be better than that.
Yeah, no, 100%. And Capcom was the biggest proponent of it, honestly. So,
I'll be honest though, I quite like Irvin.
We'll get to Irvin.
Yeah, he's already there. We've already spoken about him.
We're going to get to his big moment, though.
Okay. I just like his voice,
Yeah.
is what I'm saying. For so far, in the last three Resident Evils, the protagonist has had a very good voice.
That's very true. That's very true. Sorry, Irvin leaves documents that lead Chris into a marvel, blah, blah, blah. This is where Irvin's duel occur, but... Okay. When Chris and Sheva try to regroup with Delta Team, they find the team slaughtered by a BOW. Sheva cannot find Stone among the dead. Determined to learn if Valentine is still alive, Chris does not report it to headquarters. Oh.
Bum, bum, bum.
That is one thing I think they do a really bad job of like, portraying that Chris is gone rogue. And that's... They want you to think that, and it's like, even with like, there's a moment with Josh at the elevator where he's like, I won't report it, I'll try and get you help, sort of thing. And it's like, I don't think the game ever does a great job of really saying to you, like, Chris, you get the sense that he wants to find Jill or find out what happened to Jill, yeah. But you never get the sense that he's gone across BSAA, like, that he's back on them to do that. It just feels like... Do you know what I mean? Like, where's Hanako at this point? Like, bring her in and she's on the VO going, Chris, what's your status report? Or something like that. And it's like, he throws it away. Like, something like that. But I never get the sense of, like, Chris is doing what he needs to do for himself at this point.
Yeah.
It
like
just doesn't feel like it. Yeah.
It feels like he's just taking a mild excursion. So instead of going to A to B, he's gone round C first.
Yeah.
And it just... there's no kind of like you say, it doesn't feel like there's any stakes in his motives.
It just feels like it's...
Again, I guess that comes from... It's a problem as well in the gameplay, in that this is, like 4, very linear. Like, there is only A to B in where you go. So maybe it's just the case, it doesn't feel like you're making a break anywhere. It's always like you're going to the next logical step. So even if you were going back to base, like, you'd have to go this way anyway.
True.
I just want to touch upon the fact that, yes, there may not be stakes in his motives, but there's stakes in that boy's arms. You know
Definitely.
what I mean? You know what I mean?
Jesus Christ. Continuing through the marsh, they find Stone and track down Irvin's boat. With his help, Irvin injects himself with a vital of Las Plagas parasite and mutates into a huge octopus-like beast. I do think the plot does Irvin actually a disservice throughout what they've given him here. I think Irvin is one of my favourite characters.
I was trying to give Irvin his props.
I
had Irvin's back, okay?
And if Nick, if you want to hit me with the theme tune for quotes.
Quotes. Yeah, we're gonna quote the notes. Yeah, what's that all about? That's Irving. That's my Irving impression.
Right.
Maybe he talks like this.
Well, what is Irvin's best line in this? I'm a respectable businessman.
That, and I just got an extreme makeover.
Yeah. I do actually like Irvin. I do think they actually... you could easily have... I think they should have got rid of Excella, as much as I loved looking at Excella, and they should have kept it to be Irvin, in my opinion. Because I just felt like Irvin just had more of a, like, likable character to him, and I wanted to see more of him, and instead he gets done dirty, which for all intents and purposes makes sense in the story, but
even for how ridiculous Irving is, like, I feel like Excella is just from a different game. I literally have it down here, like, Excella looks like she belongs in a Bond film. Like, she very much is not a character in this.
Yeah, you're right.
I totally forgot.
That's a really great point. Yeah, that's a really great point. Like Irvin, I do think his lines hit well whenever he does get to speak. It's very obvious that his character is like, he's got money and he's a pawn in this bigger arcing story. And I think he does play that role pretty well. I do think. It's like, I guess that I think his other line is like, oh, I guess that XR saved the good stuff. And you're like, I just, all of the lines hit perfectly for me.
He's
for
very
him.
gullible, isn't he?
He's gullible, he's got money, he doesn't quite know what he's in with Wesker and Excella. He's just sort of along for the ride and bankrolling the whole thing. And it was just a character I was like, oh, I could get behind you. I like you. I like you as a character.
It does come across as like that quintessential, like just sleazy businessman.
Yeah.
But it sounds like he's from the suburbs of New York.
Of
with
course.
the best accent ever in the game. See, you can put accents in the game. It's allowed, and they work. Sheva. But yeah, no. Again, I think his introduction didn't really hit when he first came in. I thought he's just a character in the world. He exists. But then as you keep getting introduced to him in the sections, I thought, he comes across really well. It was a shame that he wasn't in it longer, and I think you're right. He could have definitely been the main kind of sub-boss or the sub-protagonist throughout the story, and I think he definitely disappeared too soon.
Imagine at first when you said like the accent thing, I'm like, all right, imagine if like Sheva had like Irving's accent, but then I'm like, what if just Irving was your partner and he's just like, hey, Chris, I got a boulder here to punch. Let's punch a boulder.
I need some ammo here.
Yeah.
Oh,
Hey, you shot me. I just stayed in front of you. Okay.
I just
funny.
to give him his due, I just wanted to give him his due because I think he does do a great job. Obviously, you have the octopus fight, which we've skipped over an Ouroboros fight here. They haven't even mentioned Ouroboros yet, which happens way earlier in the game. Ouroboros is the big virus of this entire plan. I think it's actually the worst virus of this entire plan as well. I think that's one thing they got wrong. They should have played up more on Las Plagas 2 and made that more deadly than what it was. And maybe even, we'll get there, or maybe we won't because the plot's very weird. Jill's Las Plaga, that should have been... I don't think that should have been on her chest like that. I feel like it should have been implanted in her brain or something like that. And then that is something... I don't know how they would have done it, but some sort of poison they were going to put across the world or some nanomites or something like that, which I just think Ouroboros is ugly, it's dumb, it doesn't make sense, it rejects some people, but doesn't... Every person it rejects. It doesn't... like, the whole point of it's like, oh, it's been rejected. It's like... Who did it work on then? Only Wesker? It only worked on one person.
Yeah.
I feel like Ouroboros is just there, and this is my headcanon. It's just there so Wesker can say it, and it's just his Wesker accent. I can't even describe what it is. Ouroboros. Ouroboros.
Ouroboros as a virus to fight is boring. To see is ugly. I just don't think it really serves a good purpose along the entire story.
Doesn't come across well.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Irvin stays, Ouroboros gone.
I think we all agree.
All right.
I'm down.
Chris and Sheva defeat him, and his dying words lead them to a nearby cave to learn more. Nah, I will say he comes out in like a cocoon-looking thing, and it's like, shut the fuck up. Like, you're a bad guy. You would not say anything. They did him dirty in these last lines. It's like, I get that you're dumb, but you just wouldn't say anything. You wouldn't. I'm sorry.
He stays alive a lot longer than you'd think he would as well after you've just like taken him away from his octopus.
Ouroboros, come on, you know.
I would also say, I think at this point we've missed out like a big chunk with the kind of like native Africans as well. Was this before or after this point?
Go on. We'll say it anyway. It doesn't matter.
Well, basically, this is the bit that I found the most problematic in the game, apart from obviously the idea of the white dude comes into town and shoots all the black people. But there's a point in like one of the notes in this story was the fact that Irvin came into town and made all these people take Las Plagas and then dressed them up as native Africans. So it wasn't like they were native Africans who dressed up in.
There was a note that said this?
Yeah, there's a note. Yeah, it was a note from a child who said, this man came into town, gave us medicine. I didn't take it, but everybody else in the town did. And then the next day, they were all dressing up in their ceremonial garbs. All the children and women died.
Oh, that's the village part. You're on about the part where you do the bridge, right?
Yeah, with the bridge.
I
and
know
there's
where
the
you're on about.
alligators who do nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It very much. I do know the note you're talking about now. We didn't get it on our playthrough, but because there's a bit that I didn't run to.
Right.
Yes, because it kind of tries to explain why they're dressed the way they are in their. Is it? Correct me if I'm wrong, because I may say they're wrong. Like their tribalism type of clothing, right? Yeah. So yeah, you're not wrong, Despawn. I do agree with you. I think the problem is the game needs to try and explain why they are dressed like that, and at the end of the day, Irvin is a bad guy. And even with, and to be honest with you, even you saying the white guy comes to town and shoots all the black people, you're 100% right. I don't know how can it be done any other way, because it's not just a white person, it is Sheva as well killing all these people. So
She's ended up shooting Chris in the back more than anyone else.
True. That's a
Well,
great
trying
way.
to save them.
As we talked about earlier, I mean, Chris shoots her just as much as any other enemy. So I mean, like,
True.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. But I do get what you mean in terms of it just not holding up as well as it probably
comes
should.
across bad because again, there's no real reason for them to be dressed like that.
No.
And it's just like they've decided it'd be cool to have all the people with their spears and their shields. And now we need to explain that somehow.
Yeah.
And it's just like one throwaway.
It's lazy.
note.
It's lazy, right?
Easily missed.
Especially since Sheva doesn't wear anything like that or use weapons like that, and neither does Josh. And these people literally lived in the same vicinity.
All right, let's get through this because I've got on a tight schedule. This one, the cave is a source of a flower used to create viruses previously used by Umbrella Corporation, as well as a new strain named Ouroboros. Chris and Sheva find evidence that Tricell, the company funding the BSAA, took over a former Umbrella underground laboratory and continued research. In the facility, they discover thousands of capsules holding human test subjects, although Chris finds one of the capsules is Valentine's. It is empty. When they leave, they discover that Tricell CEO Excella Giannoni has been plotting with Wesker to launch missiles with Ouroboros viruses across the globe. It is eventually revealed that Wesker hopes to take a chosen few from the chaos of infected and rule them, creating a new breed of humanity. Well, we'll stop there. I do enjoy the Umbrella corpse facility that was Umbrella that Tricell was taken over. Go on, you can
It
add.
did a great job of, as Nick mentioned earlier, like linking in some of the other games, especially when it talks about like their facilities in Europe and their facilities in America, and you kind of get this idea that they were all the way around the globe, and you get a good sense of like where all of the characters that you've played through or have seen in the stories kind of all link together. And there was a particular note that we read that looked at the people that had died since working from Umbrella.
Oh, yeah.
And we went through quite a few of the names, and the last name on the list was actually Ethan W. So
It
whether
could
that
be
is
nothing.
linking it up, but we were like,
It's
oh my
probably
god, it's
nothing,
Ethan!
It could
But
be
you know, when it's
nothing.
like, oh.
But if I tell you what, if we play Resident Evil 8 and we find out that Ethan was a research facility dude in Africa, I'm gonna pop like a child. I'm gonna be like, they've linked it in. It's the best.
Yeah.
Resident Evil 5 is amazing.
It was like, you
from
were
this
like-
one note.
He was like, Ethan, what's Ethan's name? I was like, Winters, it's Winters!
I mean,
Imagine.
But yeah.
I just want everyone clip this out. Clip this out. Just remember where this
We
came
fight.
from.
It
Okay?
was
There you go.
no, we discovered the secrets of Resident Evil 8. No, I do think they do a really good job. Again, this is going back to how when they do Resident Evil, they do it really well. In that this, I think it kind of makes the beginning of 4 better in the fact that there's notes throughout this game where it explains Umbrella itself isn't that important.
No.
It's just
a
there to
Hydra.
help them discover the virus, or
Yeah.
work on the virus. It's a front. It doesn't matter if the company's there or not. So when they say like Umbrella's gone, fine, whatever, we've got Tricell, we can carry on the work. And I think they did a really good job of explaining that the company itself isn't important. It's the virus that's important and the work that they're doing with that. And I think this again. This is some of the best parts of 5 in the world building around the Resident Evil ethos and like the story that's come before and what's coming next, and maybe with Ethan.
I think it does a great job of like world building in terms of like we will never get the game of Resident Evil in Italy, Resident Evil here, Resident Evil there, but it lets your imagination actually think, which I suppose 6 kind of does go to lots of different places in terrible ways, unfortunately. But yeah, I think it lets your mind go, oh, there might be a base in England, there might be a base here, there might be a base there, and they're all searching for the virus. At the end of the day, that's what they're doing. They're trying to find the best BOW weapon to sell at the highest market to whatever crazy man wants to buy it, which ends up being Wesker. So
The question is, though, is the plant 44, or is it the original plant 1? Just saying.
that was Haley's hypothesis.
Just saying.
I didn't even think about that.
Don't the notes cover that this is basically what the progenitor came from?
100%
Yes.
it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is what they discovered in Africa, ended up murdering all of the villagers around it just to keep that plant safe and to themselves. And then this is what they sent off to everyone else to be like, here's the progenitor virus, use this plant. Because I know there's a point in one of the notes where it's like, we can't reproduce this plant anywhere else. We can't get it to grow.
So maybe
we
it
can
is
only
plant
grow it
1,
here and then.
and they tried to
so we can-
reproduce it.
But yeah, so it's either we have to send this plant off somewhere else and they can experiment on the plant, but they can't reproduce it anywhere else. It can only grow here, which is, I thought that was kind of cool. Again, as I said, that whole world building of like, this is the origins of the virus. But yeah.
It could be like a variation, like Plant 42 becomes the variation of what the progenitor
That's
plant is.
how I interpret it. Maybe it's not, but that is how I interpret it. Like, even if deep down they saw this plant was like, hey, a plant. This is the origination of the viruses and stuff, right? So it's like, oh, a plant monster would be good. Maybe we should try that. So even if it isn't Plant 1, in my head it's still them thinking. That's where the idea for. We obviously get to Plant 42, but that was the idea of where it came from in my head. It started in Africa, so
I just want to touch upon real quick. I personally like the stuff before this. I think is some of the worst in the game, just in terms of like the lasers and all that.
Wiki
But
skipped it.
I think when it comes down to it, this is probably my favorite section, just because you're here with this prolific. Like, this is day 1 Umbrella.
Yep.
Like, this is where everything starts, and I love like the facility as well. I love the notes.
Scientist
that they
notes
give.
are actually are a good note of like, I've been sent here and it's sort of that thing of like, oh, I'll be home soon. It starts off, and then it's like very much like, I've been here for 10 years or whatever. I don't know the exact amount of time, but I've been here for a long ass time, and I run all these people, and like, they don't even know I'm here. Like, the rest of the company doesn't even realize that I am here doing this. It's like weird. Like you said, it shows that like Umbrella, for all intents and purposes, isn't important. Umbrella is nothing. It's the evil people inside it that are deep rooted that were very important. That's why Tricell becomes a perfect base for it. Yeah, exactly. Chris and Sheva pursue Ginino, but are stopped by Wesker and the hooded figure, who is revealed to be mind-controlled Valentine. Alexa and... not Alexa.
Yeah,
Excella and Wesker, I'm calling her that, escape to a Tricell oil tank. Chris and Sheva fight Valentine, subduing her and removing the mind control device. She orders Chris to follow Wesker. This whole moment is super twofold for me, because on the one hand, when I first ever played it, I really enjoyed it because it was Jill. Oh, we haven't seen Jill for such a long time. And then now I put my adult hat on and I'm like, wow, they did Jill dirty again. In another game, they have done Jill dirty again. Number 1, they made her blonde. She looks terrible as a blonde. Like, I'm sorry, it just doesn't work. No. And then 2, it's like, she's such a good character. Why did you hide her for half the game? Like,
I would also say, not the most shocking reveal as well.
It was to me the first time.
I think the first, yeah.
Was this the first time you played it?
Yeah.
So, when I played it when I was younger, I can't remember the exact date this came out, it was a big shock to me. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I'm not the smartest guy I know anyway, but I don't, like most people can get those early hints. Haley's very good at predicting the murderer instantly. I am not. I get lost in the art usually to the best of my ability and just try and not think. So the first time I ever saw it, I was just like, oh my god, Jill! It got the moment they wanted. After playing it again and again and seeing what they did to Jill, because this is it for Jill. You get this big moment, and then that's it. She comes and rescues you in a plane.
As somebody who kind of knew when I was younger, knew Jill as secondhand. Chris is coming to get Jill. Yada yada yada. This is a big reveal for me. Like, I was like, oh god, like she's here, and they like. I mean, it kind of makes sense. Like, it makes sense when you get it all together. But like, when I was a kid and like it was revealed, I'm like, oh wow, like now it all comes together, and I think that now it's like, oh yeah, that's Jill. Like, that's Jill now.
Now I understand storyboarding and how stories work. And
exactly.
Like, right in the story, I'm like, yeah, of course it's Jill. She gets shown at the start. You ain't gonna waste that character's like starting. No. Yeah, but from back in the day, Despawn, when I started it was good. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I think for me, it's as soon as you saw her face on the screen in the underground facility, it's like, oh, she's in one of the capsules. Like, no, she's not. She's in a hood around the corner.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe that's just from watching a lot of 80s action films. Because this is very 80s action movie. It's like, oh, I recognize this plot point. Yeah, the mysterious stranger is your friend all along.
Yeah,
it's just the friends we made along the way. I just want to touch upon also, this is like the first real time we fight Wesker like in gameplay.
Yes,
which doesn't actually turn out to be great. Like, in terms of there's a reason they didn't let you fight Wesker in any of the other games. But I think like the consequence of it, I'm like, oh sweet, we're fighting Wesker. He's the ultimate bad guy. Let's go. But like playing it now, it's like, all right, like, what am I supposed to do?
Well, Wesker is Wesker, right?
Exactly.
He's, for all intents and purposes in this world, he's Superman. So how do you fight Superman as a mere mortal? You run.
And that's
you buy 3 rocket launchers.
Wow.
I think
after he's
to go back go back to the quote the notes part. I think at one point he says, "There's only so much a superhero can do, Chris."
Yeah. You got that line. You've got 7 minutes. I only have 7 minutes to spare. It's like, so I have to run around for 7 minutes. Great.
It's like, it reminds me of in Spider-Man 1 where they're like, 3 minutes! I got you for 3 minutes!
3 minutes! So Macho Man, yeah. Oh, yeah! Yeah, I know, I totally get it. Alright, let's quickly get through the rest of this plot. Chris and Sheva board the tanker and encounter Excella, who escapes after dropping a case of syringes. Sheva keeps several. Does she? I think she just keeps the one, I thought. When Chris and Sheva reach the main deck, Wesker announced over the ship's intercom that he has betrayed Excella and infected her with Ouroboros. She mutates into a giant monster, which Chris and Sheva defeat. I think this boss is one of the most boring bosses in the entire game.
It's so awful.
Just go up a ladder and just shoot it. It's like, okay, great.
I think it's one of the worst boss fights, just period, in Resident Evil.
It's
so paint by numbers.
Yeah,
I think this game has the worst boss fights in all of the series so far. I think like the one with the main Ouroboros where you're running around and there's the flamethrower.
Yeah,
that was infuriating.
Yeah,
I think I died like maybe 2 or 3 times in that. And I'm not gonna lie, I looked up how to beat it because it was getting infuriating. It's like just buy the rocket launcher and you're done. It's just like one shot.
Yep.
So I just did that, and that's how I got past that point. Yeah. This one was very much like a case of stand in a corner, let Sheva shoot the little things on the floor while you just try and dodge and aim at the little yellow bulbs.
Yep.
And then do that for 10 minutes and move on.
Valentine radios in and tells Chris and Sheva that Wesker must take what is that?
Precise.
Thank you. Precise regular doses of the virus to maintain his strength and speed. A larger or smaller dose would poison him. Sheva realizes that Excella's syringes are doses of drug, and Chris and Sheva follow Wesker to a bomber loaded with missiles containing the Ouroboros virus. Interjecting him with the syringe, Excella dropped Wesker tries to escape on a bomber. Chris and Sheva disable it, which, let's mention the Wesker fight here again. Terrible fight. I think it's one of the most boring fights. Turn off all the lights and shoot him with rockets. Okay.
Cool.
And he's going to catch the rocket, then you shoot the rocket, then you can get him. It's just like, why does it have to be dark then for that? Like,
He never ate carrots as a kid.
It's so because he has the new eyes. He can't
Sunglasses.
see.
That's
He
it.
can't see. Yeah.
No.
sing your song.
No,
Sing your song.
no,
Sing your song.
no.
Sing your song.
Do
No, you
it.
can
Do
I
it.
don't remember it.
No, I'm not doing it.
Sing the
No,
song.
I'm cool.
Haley
one
made up
you
a
win.
song.
Sing.
Haley's made up a song for Wesker's Eyes.
that's cool.
She did. Can you sing? Can you tell me a little bit, and I'll sing it. Just
Give
start
us
it.
a tease. Give us a tease.
Ah, come on, for the
Sorry.
That's
content.
DLC, sorry.
Oh
Well,
wow.
yeah, we'll do it at the end.
Extra.
Lost in Nightmares 2. Got it.
Jesus. Wesker tries to escape on a bomber. Chris and Sheva disable it, making him crash in a volcano. Furious, Wesker exposes himself to Ouroboros and chases Chris and Sheva through the volcano. They fight him, and the weakened Wesker falls into lava before Sheva and Chris are rescued by a helicopter, which is piloted by Valentine and Stone. As a dying Wesker attempts to drag the helicopter in the volcano, Sheva and Chris fire rocket propellant grenades at Wesker, killing him. In the final game's cutscene, Chris wonders if the world is worth fighting for. Looking at Sheva and Valentine, he decides to live in a world without fear. I never got any of that from that
Sure.
end, just so we're aware. A couple of things, but 'cause I don't want to do the game a disservice in all. Things I like. I do like the enemy variety in this game. I do like the cockroach type enemies. They can kill you one shot. Obviously, you do fight a giant. The Granada, I think it's called, from Resident Evil 4. At
the
one point, there was
Giante.
Giante, thank you, which we didn't touch on. I don't dislike the game from that point of view. There's plenty of enemies to fight. There's plenty of different enemies to fight. They all have their different ways of killing you, guns and like not swords, but like machetes and like you say, spears and all that. Like, I don't dislike any of that, but I do think in our roundups, the pilots never really go in deep on each of the enemies. So I just want to give a shout out to the enemies in this game, because I do think some of them are actually interesting. There's crocodiles, and there's the weird looking zombie white things, or like the bodies that have dropped down from the pods. At one point, there are zombie-like type things that can grab you. So just give a shout out to the game there. Let's do the Did You Know Facts, unless anyone has anything else to add on the pot that we missed.
Nothing major jumps out. I think, like you said, for me, you say like the enemy like variety was really well. I think the variety was good. I just think in some of the boss fights it was very nonsensical.
Oh, the boss fights are trash in this game.
Yeah, the one that's like it's part bat, part slug.
Yeah. Oh,
like,
yeah.
Yeah.
But that whole
That's what
fight is
comes out.
strictly made for the mines. Like, they want you to use the mines there. Yeah. What were you gonna say?
No,
The-
sorry.
The only thing that I wanted to say was more like design wise. So, and I probably could find this at some point. Do you guys notice that like the audio is just super muffled for the VO? It's like it sounds like they're in like an echo chamber. Like
No,
I
noticed
always
that.
thought
I
that
didn't
when I
notice
was
that.
when I was a kid, I was just like, why do they all sound like they're just like, oh, they're all on speaker, like they're all
Oh, okay.
you know.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is like when you're healing or when you have to get revived, like it's just like punch to the chest, let's go.
Obviously,
that
we
I
was-
don't-
got punched in the chest a lot. Yeah.
Also, we did talk about obviously Chris punching boulders, but that's just kind of a meme at this point.
mean,
It's just like
I'm
Yeah.
gonna be honest. I don't think he punched enough boulders in this game because
No.
obviously this is the first time I played through. He
Yeah.
punches one boulder. Like I was promised more
Yeah.
boulder punching.
no, it's
Yeah,
just
Yeah,
a
2
lot.
out of 10. Not enough boulders.
Okay,
Yeah.
fair enough. Did you know facts? Fact number 1. This is the first Resident Evil game where all previous games are referenced in Resident Evil as much as upon completing the game. A history of Resident Evil is unlocked, detailing the past 70 years. This means that it is finally explicitly confirmed that the survivors of Resident Evil 1996/2002 were Chris, Jill, Barry, Brad, and Rebecca, and that the level at the level Umbrella end from the Resident Evil Umbrella Chronicles is officially considered canon. So,
yes, one, obviously now light gun games canon, like we know they should be. But anyways, the other thing that I loved as a kid growing up and playing this game, is like, since I didn't know the entire story, I think the loading screens actually do a great job at kind of like selling the mystery of it. I personally,
not on Series X because they just go too fast.
We literally
100%.
Three words.
Yeah, on PS5 now, like, it's
never
just
mind.
like, yeah, exactly. PS5, it's like, yep, you're back in the game. But like when I was a kid, obviously the loading screen is super long, and I'm like, oh, the Ashfords, oh, cool. Like, and then like, oh, the like Spencer, and like you're kind of getting the story as it goes along, and I'm like, all right, let's go.
Number 2, parts of Resident Evil 5's beta were later used in Resident Evil 6, mainly the underground ruins, which parts being underwater, gigante, like giants across a tan, were while you had to protect another character trying to help, and a boss fought on a train where you had to run from car to car while fighting it. The monster itself, Irvin, was also very similar to Birkin's final form. Interesting one. Number 3, the game was not originally supposed to be co-op experience, and Chris still had a partner to go with him to Africa, and Sheva still existed in the game. Chris' original partner was Barry Burton, and Sheva was going to be part of a local military fighting against the bioorganic weapons. It's kind of
Imagine.
No, that couldn't have been cool, because Despawn's hit the nail on the head, which is
That's true.
two
Me
white
too.
dudes running across Africa,
That is
killing
true.
people.
I'm
Yeah.
thinking of it more
There's
in like
no
a Resident
rescue
Evil
here.
sense.
I'm
There's no
thinking more of a
cure
story
here.
as well,
There's
but
no
it's
there's no
not-
rescue
yeah.
here. There's no
Yeah.
cure here. And Despawn made a very great point, which is
Yeah.
you could not have two white male men running across Africa and killing everyone. No way. And
Yeah,
you can
that's
totally see.
fair.
I get it from a hey, I'm the biggest Resident Evil fan.
From a
here.
lore-wise,
From a story
yeah.
and lore point of view. Of course, that would have been awesome. But
That's kind
no.
of what bugs us about Sheva's accent, right? Because it does just make it obvious that she is literally a black
Just that.
woman just for that
Yes,
sake of being a black
exactly.
woman, and they're not even committing to it fully by giving her the accent. you know, you're like,
Because I mean,
it's
I
just
don't know if
annoying.
it's in the later ones, but one of the Did You Know facts is that obviously with the racism row that when this game was announced and the initial trailers, it only showed Chris
Yes.
running into town and killing everyone. And obviously Sheva was introduced after.
Yes.
But obviously the what you said there kind of points to the fact that maybe she was just moved into that role to be the like kind of the antidote to that argument where it was originally going to be Barry, and it's like, oh, actually we can't do that because everyone's kicking off. Maybe
Yeah.
we should probably move Sheva into
I
that role.
remember when the trailer came out for this and people were not happy. I remember getting a lot of dislikes on YouTube and just people were not happy. So, yeah, totally get it. Fact 4, the drug that was specifically designed to keep Albert Westgard's virus in control has this written on the label. Quote, caution, don't give to children under 2 years of age except on doctor's advice. End quote.
Oh,
Interesting.
Okay.
I'm gonna call up my pediatrician real quick, and we'll make sure that gets all done.
There you go. Number 5, this is the first Resident Evil game that has a swear word, fuck, in it, but is used twice, one for the main game and one for the recent downloadable scenario, Desperate Escape. So, that's an interesting one.
When do they use? Fuck?
Yeah, there's one time. There's one time.
I'm trying to think. I'm like, where is it?
Shotgun's gonna go searching for it after this.
6,
Yeah, right.
in a Lost in Nightmare scenario, if you attempt to leave the mansion through the front door, you will be able to play the game using angle style of the earlier Resident Evil games, when the camera didn't move, but was still angle to still angle. There you go. I did that. Did anybody else do it?
I wish I knew it,
Fixed
because
camera
that would have
angle.
made the experience so much better. That gameplay of that DLC, awful.
No, I disagree. I actually like. No, you're probably.
Yeah.
I think when I told you all to play it, I really
was
thought
that?
it was way better than what it actually was when I played it again. I was like,
Yeah.
The first section you liked.
the first
didn't you?
section
But
I
then
really
after that-
like, but after that it's awful.
The idea of it is fantastic. The like going in and being like, all right, well, we're gonna get some zombies, we're gonna get maybe like a executioner or something. But no, we just get like the executioners, and like you have to like you lose your weapons at one point. They try to make it scary, but it's really just tedious.
Annoying.
But I think the story of it, the mansion, everything is super cool, but everything else just sucks. It sucks so bad.
Fact number 7, and our last one. Resident Evil 5 is the first main entry in the series to be produced after the series creator Shinji Mikami had left the franchise. Before the game was released, he claimed that he was never going to play the game, predicting that he wouldn't like it anyway since he hadn't made it himself. When he finally got around to play it, he condemned Capcom's hard work. Commended Capcom's hard work. Thank you.
Completely different sentence.
Very different.
In my head, he hates it. But stated that he wasn't especially happy or sad about it. He simply didn't like the idea of Resident Evil game that was different to his style. Don't we all? Don't we all agree with you, Shinji Mikami? This is where we rank enemies, characters, and things like that, gentlemen and lady. Let's go through the rankings real fast. Resident Evil 0, Rebecca Chambers was our favourite character. Weapon, the Magnum. Location, the train. Resident Evil 1, we had Chris Redfield as our favourite character. The stun gun as our favourite weapon. And our favourite location, the mansion. Resident Evil 2, we had Claire Redfield as our favourite character. The shotgun as our favourite weapon. And our favourite location was the police station. Resident Evil 3, we had Jill Valentine as our favourite character. The grenade launcher as our favourite weapon, and Raccoon City Streets as our favourite location. Resident Evil Code Veronica, Claire Redfield appears again as our favourite character, the shotgun as our favourite weapon, and Rockville Island as our favourite location. Resident Evil 4, Raymond Salazar as our favourite character, the bow weapon as our favourite weapon, and the village as our favourite location. Thank you very much, Haley.
Location.
If I had to ask you what your favourite character was of the entire game, who would you say? Shotgun.
Oh man, mine's gonna be unpopular, but I think it's Wesker. I fucking love Wesker in this game, where he's full baddie, full like totally like. I think the lore is the best when he's on screen. I think the getting everything going. I think that is the best part of this entire game, and I think like without a doubt, Wesker is my favorite.
Shotgun. Shotgun. Teaspoon, sorry.
So, as I was saying, no.
Well, for me, it's the boulder. I'm going to agree with Shotgun. I think, Wesker is just pure, like, for all intents and purposes, this is a B movie. It's a very, like, cheesy action. And anytime Wesker's on screen, it just elevates it to that, like, top level pure cheese factor of a video game, and it just makes it fun. Like you say, like just taking away the fact that the boss fight with him, the first one where it's like 7 minutes, isn't particularly fun.
I think he's got some dialogue in it that's fun though.
Yeah, the dialogue's fun. Anytime you're talking to him in character's fun, and I think he just elevates the stupidity of it all, and it's just it makes it just like say fun to be around in that world. Where it could have just been a bit bad. It just kind of elevates it that little bit more. It would have been like, it was toying between him and Irving, but I think for the lack of time we get with Irving, I think Wesker's quintessential Resident Evil, and I think just the B music, the villainousness of it all.
Haley,
brings it out for me.
I'm kind of where Despawn is. I was thinking it was going to be either Irvin or Wesker, but I have to agree. I feel like we don't have enough Irvin. I feel like if Irvin was in the place of Excella, then maybe Irvin would have managed to kind of get on our list. But because he's kind of, I feel like we get a little taste of him and then he's gone before we really dive into him anymore. I feel like you have to give it to Wesker, and I think that DC Douglas does a great job with Wesker's voice. So
good.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Then Wesker it is, guys. Location-wise, where are we all thinking? I very much would say it's the entire underground umbrella facility part, the flower, and just building that. It's not very big, it's not very crazy, but what it does for the story of Resident Evil is remarkable in terms of building it out and letting your mind sort of run wild with what could happen. So that would personally be my location of choice. Haley, what about you?
I want to troll and say the mansion in the DLC, but I mean, it has to it has to be, as you said, the underground facility. I think even purely just for the notes that you find in that area. I said at the the beginning, like when we were introducing this, that the notes were terrible in this game, and for the majority of the time they are. But I feel like as soon as you get into that underground area, it's like the notes all of a sudden connect all the dots that you didn't even realize weren't connecting until this point.
Yeah.
So I think you've got to go with that location.
Despawn?
100% agree. Yeah, that underground facility, like you say, for connecting the dots, it's as we've said throughout this entire thing, like Resident Evil, when it references Resident Evil in the world, it just elevates itself, and I think this entire area does that perfectly. So yeah, for me, definitely that underground facility as well.
So it will be the underground facility, but Shotgun, where are you at with it?
100% unanimous. For the reasons I said before, for the reasons that you guys say, I think this does great things for the lore. I think it's the best part of Resident Evil since 3. Like, I think like that we've since Code Veronica, sorry, that has really built upon the world, and I love the origins of Umbrella and kind of getting back to, basically Umbrella being this Hydra and being like, what, we're still here, like we're still doing this. So
yeah. Okay, location is set. Now, weapons. Favorite weapon? Very fast, off the top of your head, go. Despawn, what you got for me?
Rocket launcher, because it gets me through the boss fights quickly.
That's literally my pick as well. So perfect.
Yeah. I can't even think of one that would be different, like any other one.
And ranking. So our current rankings for the games sit like this: Resident Evil 2 number 1, Resident Evil 1 number 2, Resident Evil Code Veronica number 3, Resident Evil 4 number 4, Resident Evil 0 number 5, Resident Evil 3 number 6. Where does Resident Evil 5 sit on this list for you guys? Despawn, we will start with you.
I think I'm gonna have to put it at the bottom for me.
Really?
Yeah, like I say, all the problems I had with, like, I found all of the boss fights infuriating. I found all of the superfluous story terrible. All the problematic things are genuinely problematic and just don't sit right with me at all. And yeah, even the bits that elevate itself a little bit, I just think, it kind of doesn't do enough to raise itself. And I think this is the one that just kind of like, it screwed the pooch in being a Resident Evil game, and it just went, we're just a B-movie action film now, and it's just like, yeah, that's fine, but it's not what I wanted from a Resident Evil game, which, it just, for me, it's just like, it just isn't a Resident Evil game for me. So yeah, in a ranking Resident Evil games, definitely bottom.
Shotgun, where would you put it?
All right, hear me out, okay? We put for all the reasons that Despawn just said, we put Resident Evil 4 above Resident Evil 0. I just want to put that out for the court, for everybody. I just don't want this to become a kangaroo court, of course. But I want to start the argument at least above 3.
No.
Wow. I'm actually at the point where I'm feeling like 3 needs to move from where it is.
We'll get to that on the last episode. The rankings will stay as they are until we get to our very last episode. Then we can argue it out and we'll have plenty of time. But I'm with you, Despawn. This game goes at the bottom. Because though Resident Evil 3 doesn't do enough, it does more than what this game does. For everything of what I love about Resident Evil.
Enjoyable experience, right?
100%. It's better gameplay, makes more sense, characters are better, there's more likable characters, dialogue's good, gameplay feels better. No, Shotgun, I love you, but for me, personally, it goes at the bottom as well. Haley?
It's going at the bottom, and guess what? Shotgun doesn't edit this podcast, so he can't change where we're putting it.
So that is where it will. So it will go like this. Resident Evil 2 at the very top. Resident Evil 5 will be at the very bottom. Until next week, let's plug, and get ourselves out of here. Shotgun, what have you got to plug this week, dude?
What's up? I'm Shaka McPain. Of course, we've got some edits over at More MC Fixer. You can check out UFC, you can check out MLB, and Streaming Life is on the way, or it's probably already there.
Probably
at this point. But of course, you can find me over at youtube.com/Shaka McPain as well, and all social over at Shaka McPain, spelled like Max Payne.
Yeah. Despawn, where can the people find you? Paul Despawn.
Paul Despawn, yeah, head balls. You can find me everywhere on socials at Paul Despawn. Also Twitch at Despawn Games. I'm also going to plug my YouTube. I'm on the road to getting 100 subscribers, so I can get that fancy little URL that everyone loves.
Yep.
So go search for Despawn Games and come find it for Twitch tutorial tips, tricks, and the odd review and preview and stuff. I've got some ideas I'm working on in the future, so yeah, come check it out.
Great tutorials.
Haley?
You can find me over on Twitter at the Haley Show 21, but more importantly, you can find me here at the podcast. Make sure you're liking this video and putting your rankings and your opinions in the comments below. Engagement is key.
Like what she said. Everyone.
And don't forget to share it. Share it everywhere. Share it on Facebook. Share it on Twitter.
Tell
your parents
tell
to watch
the world.
it.
Tell the world how wrong we did Resident Evil 5. Okay.
Yeah,
sure.
You keep thinking that.
Yeah,
you can find me everywhere at MC Fixer. Thank you all for being here once again. I've been enjoying doing the show, so can't wait. We are very, very, very close to Resident Evil 8 being out, and we still have 2 more games to rank and review before then. But until then, we will love you, leave you, and see you all later. You've been amazing, and goodbyes.